Oh, hello there, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome once again to the Mr. Warren Hayes Show. I am Mr. Warren Hayes himself, and this is it. I've talked about it over the past couple of weeks, and here we are. Brand new schedule, brand new time. You're getting all of this stuff earlier than on Thursdays and Fridays or whatever. No. We're midweek now. We're smack dab in the middle of your work week to give you a little extra boost, a little extra oomph. That's what we're here for. That's what I'm here for. Here live every Tuesday night now. See, I have to change my own vernacular. Every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 Central is when I record this live on youtube.com/MrWarrenHayes. So if you can ever make it, that we'd love to have you come and join us, or you're listening to this on your favorite podcast feed, whether it's Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, whoever. Thank you very much. Hey, listen. This is what I'd like you to do. If you're listening to this on YouTube right now, subscribe to the channel because it helps. That's how the channel grows. Leave a like at the same time. Also, little details, little things, but are indispensable to making this little piece of the internet get bigger and bigger and bigger, which is something that'd be cool. And on your favorite podcast applications, well, look, there's ways that you can show some love. 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, 5-star rating on Spotify, so on and so forth. Whatever you can do to show a little bit of love. I appreciate it. And hey, leave some comments if you're on YouTube as well. I love to chat wrestling. Let me know what you thought about Halloween Havoc. Because, spoiler alert, I didn't like it. But maybe you did. Maybe there's stuff that I'm completely off base with. I'd love to chat it up with you. You can leave a comment down below. And also, look, this isn't the only change. If you subscribe to my podcast feed or to the YouTube channel, you will also be duly notified when my AEW Dynamite review comes out, which I'm doing every Thursday moving forward now. So Thursdays, you will get some more Warren Hayes content with my AEW Dynamite review. So that's also exciting. And by the time you're listening to this in just a couple of days, Pro Wrestling Illustrated is going to be releasing their top 150 women's list, which again this year I am a proud contributor. I'm very, very fortunate, thrilled, and honored to have been selected as part of the selection committee again this year. I'm really excited for you guys and gals and non-binary pals to check out the list and let me know what you think about it. I'm very proud of it. And that's all I'm going to say moving forward. Otherwise, the Pro Wrestling Illustrated snipers are going to, take me out as I step out of the house tomorrow if I say any more. But it releases on Thursday, the 27th, October 27th. At least the digital copy of the magazine releases on the 27th. I'm excited. I'm excited for it because there's a lot of great stuff on it. And, you can't please everyone with the list, but you can be proud of the list. So I'm excited to hear what you guys are going to talk, what you guys think about it. I'll probably talk about it a little more next week on the podcast when everything has been released. Don't forget to join the Mr. Warren Hayes Show Discord. The link is in the description. And I guess that's pretty much it for now. Like I said, we're talking NXT Halloween Havoc, a full review of that. We're going to be talking about the Elite, all the signs of them returning back to AEW. New Japan news on top of that. It's been a fun week for a diversity of news. I want to thank you all for being here. Let's get to it. So, before I go on and do... Okay. So, when I decided to do the move to Tuesdays, I said to myself, you know what, to kick it off, to make it feel a little special, to just give it a little something. I was going to, I decided that I was like, look, I'm going to catch up and, put all the naysayers to rest, get all the detractors to relax, and I'm going to do 2 separate consecutive nice things about Bill Goldberg. I'm going to say 2 nice things about Bill Goldberg on Tuesday. I was like, that'll be a nice little way to just make the evening feel special kind of thing, right? I was like, I'm setting it up, but I'm not going to lie, I struggled. I struggled with it this week, and not necessarily to come up with something. I struggled because Goldberg this week, had a hell of a quote come out of an interview, right? And this happened just yesterday. And I was like, this son of a bitch. Because Goldberg, on the Roman Atwood podcast, former prankster, former prank star, Roman Atwood. You remember when that's how he started, right? Doing the, hey, it's just a prank, bro. He's one of these guys. So of course he has fucking Goldberg on. And during the podcast, during the interview, they start talking about the spear. Started talking about how the spear has been used over the years. And then Goldberg started specifically talking about how Roman Reigns uses the spear. I'm going to read this quote here. I'm reading it off of Fightful here. It's weird because I was the only person who did it. Then the Monday Night Wars come, right? And they start doing it to take away from what I was doing. Now I'm over there and people are doing it. I'll just be honest. Roman said how stupid it is. Go out and hit people hard. Well, if you can hit people hard and blur that line and not hurt them, I think that's pretty smart. Plus, I don't look like a, no offense, girl when I tackle people. Look like Bill Goldberg out here saying, hey, you know what? When I do spears, I don't look like a girl. And I'm like, this jackass, this prime rib moron popping in here and going, well, at least I don't look like a girl. I'm like, holy smokes. What kind of disconnected, absurd, stupid tripe dribbled out of this guy's mouth? I'll tell you one thing. Kairi Sane has never concussed herself while delivering a spear. Unlike Bill, who's done that to DDP, I think, 96, 97 is what I want to say. And this is legitimate. It's out there. And then after that, he tries to do a jackhammer, but brother knocked himself out doing his own fucking move. So no wonder everyone's taking it, because they're like, this son of a bitch can't do it on his own. He can't do it proper himself. And here he is in this fucking quote saying, if you can hit people hard and not hurt them, I think it's pretty smart. Listen to this guy. Listen to this guy talking about hitting people hard and not hurting them like he's some paragon of that virtue of pro wrestling. Jesus Christ. And then turns around and says, well, at least when I spear people, I don't look like a girl doing so. Well, now what's the exact quote again? I don't look like a, no offense, girl when I tackle people. So in that respect, in that respect, folks, I'm going to deliver unto you 2 consecutive nice things about Bill Goldberg. So here is the first nice thing that I'm going to say about Bill Goldberg.
MrWarrenHayes has 52 nice things to say about Goldberg.
What's great about women using spears in wrestling is that they don't look like, no offense, Bill Goldberg.
MrWarrenHayes has 52 nice things to say about Goldberg.
That's a compliment. I'm pretty sure that's a compliment. I worded it to be a compliment. So here's number 2. Second nice thing about Bill Goldberg.
MrWarrenHayes has 52 nice things to say about Goldberg.
What's great about Bill Goldberg is that whenever he wrestles a pro wrestling match, he doesn't look like he doesn't look like a, no offense, pro wrestler.
Warren Hayes has 52 nice things to say about Goldberg.
That's a compliment too, right? You wrestle matches, you don't look like a big ass goofball. It's like, didn't make it easy on me this week. But hey, you know what? The important thing is that I am caught up. I am absolutely caught up. No, they're very nice. Those are two beautiful compliments that I made for Bill Goldberg. And that's what he deserves. That's what he deserves. I'm up to date now. I'm no longer behind. Let's move on to the weekly wrestling inspection. I am thinking this week that I should start off with talking about some WWE, specifically talking about NXT Halloween Havoc, which was an NXT PLE that happened this past weekend, October 22nd, at the Performance Center in Orlando, Florida. Look, I'm straight off the bat without before we get into the matches itself. If this is the part where if you're listening and you're like, oh, I'm really excited because I really want to know what Warren thinks about it. I hope we get to say some really cool things. Like, look, this was a mediocre show, so you're more than welcome to either skip later into the video or just like sayonara, Warren, see you later. But honestly, I thought this was a mediocre show. And I'll give you my reasons why as we break down this card, which opened up with an NXT North American title 5-way ladder match to determine who was going to be the next champion, because it had been rendered vacant when Solo Sikoa won the title off of Carmelo Hayes and then had to relinquish the title like 10 days later because he was moving up to SmackDown, because of course all of that makes sense. And Wes Lee defeated Carmelo Hayes, Nathan Frazier, Oro Mensah, and Von Wagner to become new NXT North American champion. And, I guess this was an okay match, but any listener of the MrWarrenHayes show recently knows that I am spent when it comes to ladder matches. I'm done. I am kaput. I am so exhausted. I want a moratorium on ladder matches. I can't, like, they all sort of jumbled together and they're not even memorable anymore. You know what I mean? It's like there was a time where people where they'd put out a ladder match and be like, you'd be excited and then you'd remember stuff. Now I can't remember any ladder matches. I don't remember any spots from any ladder matches because they all mush together, because eventually everyone ends up doing variants of the same thing or just straight out the same thing. But look, I understand what this was for. This was spectacle. This was for the spots. This is, people doing things that end up falling into the trappings of a ladder match. This is what it was. And one thing that annoyed me in this match is how quickly they started using ladders, in the match. If you will recall, when I talked about Extreme Rules, one of the things that really got me fired up for the match when it started was Bianca not wasting time going all Tinker Toy and starting to build shit in the ring, suddenly putting together what's an old Tinker Toys? Jesus Christ. Anyone under 20 doesn't know what I'm talking about right now. Lincoln Logs. Meccano. Is anyone Meccano? Anyway. She didn't waste time building structures or fiddling around with it. She was running up the ladder to win. And I'm like, this is wrestling logic. This is good psychology for a ladder match. Have someone run in, right? Have someone run up the ladder, grab the fucking belt while the other one is on the outside of the ring, opening one ladder, then opening another ladder, then putting a ladder between the two ladders, then putting another ladder on top, then like that kind of bullshit. That's what takes me out of ladder matches, amongst other things. So I'm like, all right, Bianca gets it. Let's fucking go. In this match, we're not even 2 minutes in, they're swinging ladders at each other. I'm like, guys, okay, all right. And it's not as if they were rushing for time here. This match got 19 minutes, almost 20 minutes. What are we even talking about? But look, it was all right, I guess. Nathan Frazier carried this match. He had the most exciting high spots. He was the guy who was delivering them, doing dives early in the match. He missile drop kicks Carmelo Hayes off of a ladder, a Spanish fly by Nathan Frazier on a ladder, and then he frog splashes a dude through a ladder. It's like, come on. I mean, this is, But I don't remember anyone else. I remember Von Wagner yeeting Wesley onto the commentary table, right? Anyway, they do a bunch of stuff with ladders. And the other thing that annoys me is that there's 5 people in this match. 5 people. And most of this match occurs with one-on-one action, and that, it just bothers me. It bothers me because it should not be like that, It shouldn't be, like 2 guys going at it and 3 guys for some reason are laying around on the floor. It's like, I felt this was a bit of a waste of time. And, a match like thrown together, say, okay guys, do hot spots because we need an exciting match to kick this off because the rest of the card is sort of going to be shit. Wesley wins it, as I said. Congrats to him. First singles title in pro wrestling ever, right? Maybe outside of a couple of very obscure promotions that don't even exist anymore. First singles title for him, and good for him, because this is a guy who, left Impact with his tag team partner, went to NXT, they did tag team partner things, then they win the titles, then his partner does, there's some Aryan bullshit that appears. I'm simplifying, but so he gets fired. And in regards to WWE, most of the time when a tag team dude becomes a solo act, he's sort of toast, right? There's precedent for that, multiple precedents for that. But not in this case. He didn't suffer. He didn't get punished for the deeds of his partner or whatever, and he stuck with it. And I think this is a good level of reward here for him for sticking it through. I think he's going to be a fine North American champion. I think it makes sense for where he is in his career, his spot on the card. Because I know a lot of people were mad that Carmelo didn't three-peat because that was a big deal, right? They wanted Carmelo Hayes to get the title for a third time. But I think the NXT title is under Carmelo. The NXT North American title is under Carmelo Hayes at this point. I think he's a guy who is poised to fight Braun Breaker. And I can absolutely see him being the guy who takes the belt off of Braun. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But there you go. Not bad by any chance, not terrible, but like I said, it's just for me, very, very personally, ladder matches burn me out. I'm burnt out. Then we had Apollo Crews defeating Grayson Waller. This was a wrestling match. Here's my analysis. Let me give you my full. This is my abridged analysis of Apollo Crews versus Grayson Waller at Halloween Havoc 2022. Okay. This was a wrestling match that occurred on a wrestling show. This was the very definition of mid. This is the very definition of mid. Cruz and Waller are two good wrestlers, but they couldn't pull any emotion out of this match. They were just going through the motions. Apollo Crews, at some point, he gets thrown through a coffin, right? It's a coffin match. I forgot to mention it's a coffin match. And he gets thrown through the coffin. The coffin explodes under him. It breaks apart. And Waller thinks he's won, right? But you have to close the lid. Now, why is it that here's a trope in wrestling that we have to stop. Wrestlers who get into who get into stipulation matches, right? But don't understand the rules, or who act like they don't understand the rules. This is a stipulation that has to stop. We can't do this anymore. Okay? We can't have because Grayson Waller goes, "Yay, I won." Referee's like, "No, you have to close the lid. The lid exploded. You didn't win, right?" It's kind of like when sometimes like you'll see a submission match and you'll see a wrestler, grab a guy for a pin. And like, what the fuck are you doing? Have you been paying attention? Are you in the match? Are you here with us? Anyway, there's druids for some reason. The NXT druids, I guess. They bring in another big sturdy coffin where I'm like, why didn't you bring that one out in the first place? I know why. Because they wanted to do the spot. I get it. But it's in hindsight, it looks stupid now. We're going to bring out the big coffin now, just in case they break another one. They're gonna bust our budget on coffins. They have all these breakable coffins backstage. Oh, let's try to get these out first. Let's use these. They're lesser maintenance. Anyway, they fight in the coffin eventually, and Waller gets closed in on it. No urgency, no vibe to this match. I thought it was very dull. It was a very, very mid match. Then we had a Weapons Wild match between Roxanne Perez and Cora Jade. I have so many issues with this match. I have so many problems with this match. First of all, look, okay, I will concede I am not a regular viewer of NXT, right? Which I think makes me, I think it puts me in a unique position where, despite the fact that I understand the feuds and so on and so forth, I know what's going on from afar. I can come into a big show, a PLE or a super show, and okay, now I can judge this match on the quality of the match, on what's going on, But, I'm told, and I understand, commentary puts this over, and they even have the video packages to make sure that, a numbnuts like myself understands that Cora Jade and Roxanne Perez are in the midst of a blood feud, that their friendship has been torn asunder, that Cora Jade has betrayed Roxanne Perez multiple times, and she never wanted her to be a friend, and she's always been evil and conniving and just a bad person, and Roxanne feels betrayed and mean, not mean, she feels that she's been lied to and taken advantage of, and they just hate each other, right? Well, nothing says blood feud than walking to the ring smiling the whole way, doesn't it, right? Just a nice big smile, and then getting into the ring and waiting for the referee to ring the bell, despite the fact that there's no DQs, despite the fact that there's weapons everywhere. You gotta play by the rules, right? And while one girl is holding a stick or whatever, the other one has a skateboard, and this match should not have started the way it did. If this is the blood feud, if you're supposed to get me into this blood feud, these women should have been tearing at each other from the get-go. You should have had Roxanne come out first and have Cora jump her during her entrance, and then start fighting around. It doesn't matter. It's a no DQ match. Who the fuck cares? Jesus Christ. And it's so soft. It's soft. Everything is soft. You know, because these women are out of their element. This is a plunder match, and and this I will 100% put this on the back of this is developmental, because these women are so incredibly young in their careers. They're clearly out of their depth when it comes to plunder matches like this. Clearly. Was nothing violent or vile or strong. Now when I was getting into it, was like, oh shit, oh, she really doesn't like her. Cora Jade is blowing all sorts of spots where Roxanne is clearly covering for her. And the most egregious one being the big spot when they flew off that high-rise stage, right? Where William Regal did War Games that one time. You said it is what I want to say. Cora, she's teetering off, right? She's teetering off because Roxanne is punching her and she's, oh, no, I'm going to fall. Oh, no, I'm going to fall. But then Roxanne rolls her body like she's front facing her, and she turns right around, rolls right into Cora Jade, into like a Russian leg sweep situation, and Cora Jade and her fall off through a table. Now, I have two problems with this spot specifically. The first problem is the way that it happened. Clearly, Cora Jade was supposed to grab Roxanne and leg sweep her off. She was supposed to grab her, but she did not grab her. Roxanne went into her arms. I don't know what happened. I don't know if it's Jade that got afraid of heights, got a little spooked. I don't know if she forgot the spot. I don't know what the fuck happened, but it looked silly. And I was like, oh. When it happened, I was like, oh, Roxanne just threw herself and Cora Jade off. Interesting. But then commentary is putting over the fact that it's Cora Jade that did it. And Cora Jade is the first up to her feet as if she hit the spot. And I don't understand what's going on. Plus, on top of that, you can add to the believability factor of two women going through a table. Why would off of that high-rise stage, why would Cora Jade stand up before? Look, I mean, that's a whole other 9 yards. Not here or there. That's not a problem with it. But the other problem I had with this is that up until this point, this was such a nothing match. It was so devoid of anything interesting that made it feel dramatic, that made it feel important, that made it feel like we were reaching a climax to this blood war that existed between these two women. This spot here, that fall, was unnecessary. It did not, it didn't heighten, it didn't climax. You were like, it was the high spot, and everyone was like, oh shit. But then everything just, and when you look at it in a void, you're like, why did they do this spot? Other than being able to add this to NXT highlight reels. There was no reason, not in the way this match was structured, not in the way it was put together, not with the lack of fierceness and emotion. Like, it felt gratuitous. It was like, let's throw ourselves off of something for the sake of throwing ourselves off of something. And it didn't even matter all that much. They didn't even barely beat the count. Because there was no count to beat, because it's a no disqualification match. For a match that had such stakes to it, personal stakes to it, this was a nothing match. It was a nothing match. And a nothing spot. Roxanne wins with the code red. Ill-advised is what I'd call this match. Then we had Julius Creed defeating Damon Kemp in an ambulance match. This match here, this is interesting to me. Because this match teetered multiple times for me from this rules and this is stupid. Like it really did. But I think it ends up in a position where, like, you know what? I thought this was fun. But I think what I liked most about it was the energy it brought. And we had just sat through two very bland matches. I think on any other card that didn't have those matches previous to that, maybe I wouldn't feel so high about it. But there was something going on here. You know, this too was a grudge match. This too was I don't know if you call it a blood feud, but it was definitely a grudge match because if Julius Creed lost the match, his brother's NXT contract would be null and void. So he was out there, Julius Creed, fighting for his brother, and I can appreciate that. And it starts like it should. Both guys going, fuck the bell, and they just start wailing on each other before the referee gets to separate them. Julius Creed just hits the ring and he starts pounding on Damon Kemp, and I'm like, let's fucking go. This is it. And then they try early on to do some ambulance stuff, to stuff each other into the ambulance, right? Which I felt took a little away early on because, these are part of the parts where I'm like, this is stupid. Because why is it that within like the first 2 to 3 minutes, we're already trying to put people into the ambulance? We understand how an ambulance match works. It's like in WWE there, sometimes it's like they have to do so much exposition to make sure we understand it. And it's like, both feet have to touch the floor. This is what you do in the Royal Rumble. You have to throw people over the top rope just to make sure everyone understands. It's like, Christ, the rules, you set the rules. They're simple. Put the man in the ambulance, close the doors. And there's a weird wheelchair spot too, where Creed traps Kemp in it with a crutch, and he wheels him into some steps. Just a weird, awkward spot. Just a couple of. But these dudes made the best of their environment, and they worked hard with the plunder at hand. And at some points, I'm sure they're improvising because there was stuff. There was like a catering table, and they were throwing shit at each other. Didn't look planned. I enjoyed it. And there's this great drama spot really at the end where Julius is letting his hand getting slammed in the ambulance door so that it doesn't close shut right on his fingers. And I was like, oh, this fucking rules. The complete opposite of the previous match. Yeah, Creed's poor fingers indeed, but a complete 180 from the match that we saw before with the same type of stakes. Julius Creed wins. Julius Creed, and I know I'm not the first guy to say this. This guy's the real deal. This guy's the real deal, though. I like Damon Kemp too. I thought these, two super athletic guys, athletes doing athletic shit, being entertaining in the meantime, understanding the structure of a wrestling match. Like, it wasn't perfect. Like I said, I think they went too many times to the ambulance because because the way it became a little awkward when they went once too many times or twice too many times, because you're going out of the out and then to the ambulance and then back. Go into the audience, fight into the crowd. We get it. You can't stay in the ring because the ambulance is not in the ring. We get it. But you don't always have to go, then come back. Because why drag them back to the ring, really? That part of the psychology, I didn't quite get it. But, I'm nitpicking here because overall, it's stupid wrestling fun. And I thought these guys put on a great performance. Julius Creed is the real thing. Damon Kemp is good. He's got something there. The only thing that I would challenge here is the idea of having two matches on the card, two distinct matches where you have to lock someone into something. You had the coffin match and then the ambulance match, and you're like, okay, this is kind of the same thing. It's kind of the same thing. And I understand, they want to make Halloween Havoc all about the stipulations. They didn't even use the wheel. The wheel was there? They didn't use the wheel a single time. I'm like, well, let's that's the part of it. Isn't that part of the fun? Spin the wheel, make the deal. Isn't that the thing? Mandy Rose defeated Alba Fire to retain the NXT Women's title match. Guys, gals, non-binary pals, this was bad. Everything about this was bad. Okay? And it breaks my heart. It breaks my heart to... Look, you guys know I'm a big proponent of women's wrestling, and I want women to do... I want women to do well in the business, right? I want them to succeed. I want them to have parity on cards in wrestling as the guys do. But there's things that you just cannot defend. Okay? The problem that I had with Cora Jade and Roxanne isn't the talent of those two women necessarily, although I do feel Cora dropped the ball more so than Roxanne. I think they're both talented women. I think Roxanne is particularly talented. I think the match structure was not for them. And, I think there's a bunch of circumstances in this match that turned it into something very, 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 very boring, albeit frustrating. So it's nothing on them. This here, though, Mandy Rose and Kaylee Ray, there's nothing redeemable out of this. Everything about this was bad. And I can't even get myself worked up to be like, crazy Warren rant. The haunted house stuff is the haunted house stuff is terrible. It's terrible viewing. And it's not even a question of, you don't like the sports entertainment. Look, I've talked about this in the past. WWE thinks it can do TV. It thinks it can do television like a television program. If they had done this haunted house at the county fair shit any better, they would have edited, they would have added some true suspense. Now you just have someone walking into the room with one camera in one shot, sort of a wide shot, and you have someone coming in. Something out of a kid's show from the 1980s. And that's all you see. There's no real tension. There's nothing building to it. And it's not even funny. When they did this a couple of years ago with Carmelo Hayes and Dexter Lumis, they sprinkled some jokes in there. I didn't necessarily care for it, but it wasn't... There were jokes. There was some level of comedy, despite the fact that, focus on it. There was nothing funny about it. And for some reason, Alba Fire has all these connections to these carnies hanging out in this house. To be like, hey guys, can you spook the shit out of these girls that are going to come in? They're going to be scantily clad, but they're wrestlers. It's cool. Just scare them until I beat them up. Again, I haven't been watching the show. Is she like Bray Wyatt and has control over supernatural forces? I don't know. But whatever the reason is, it all turned out to be terrible. It was terrible. The execution was terrible. The idea was terrible. And it's, again, not a question necessarily of the talent, but how it's produced, how it's directed. And I know that there are people listening, watching right now who love this type of stuff. I know who you are. And I love that we can sit around and talk about it. And I'm not going to disparage anyone who likes this. That's not my point. But I don't understand what value this brings to you. I have people saying, Warren, I'm a horror fan. I love the horror stuff. This was right up my alley. And I'm like, how? How? Because there are legitimate horror shows out there that do this kind of stuff and do it great. Kristen and I were watching what is it called? The Midnight Club, right? About a bunch of teenagers, who are dying in a hospice. And it's so much better than this. That's what I was laughing with Christian about. It's like, I prefer to watch I prefer watching a show about dying teenagers than this. Because it's so well put together. The camera shots, the tension. This is just WWE doing what it does best. Seeing a trope and hey, we can do something like that. People will know what we're talking about. And then do it, but half-ass it because they don't know how to do it, because they don't know how to do TV, because it's a wrestling promotion. God damn. So then they think they can pull this up. They can pull off comedy. They can pull off horror. They can do all of these stuff, all these things that require actual training and talent to do. You know, just like WWE tells us, not everyone can do wrestling. You need training and talent to be a wrestler. Not just any Joe Schmo can do that. But then they think they can do all everything else. Oh yeah, they can do comedy. They can do musical numbers and all this. But this was bullshit. And then the match itself was nothing. The most absolute nothing match of the night. Mandy Rose hits her moves very, very well. The V-trigger, the spine buster, the sack of shit. But the narrative that we've had with Mandy Rose for the past 5 years is she's improving. And that's still what I hear to this day. Mandy's improving. She's been doing this for a long time at this point. She was in Tough Enough. She's been on main roster. She's been in NXT. She's been 2 times in NXT. She's improving, Warren. She's improving. Don't worry, she's improving. How long are we going to stay with this narrative that Mandy Rose is improving until we just come to the fact that she is a perfectly capable wrestler? She's absolutely fine. She's nothing special. She's pretty. She's got presence. That's fine. But we're going to have to stop with this. She's improving in the ring and just cater to her strengths, is that she's able to hit her big moves. She commands a room. She's not a great mic worker, and that's still okay. But we have to stop pretending that Mandy Rose is this great wrestler. Sure, she has come a long way, but we have to stop saying she's improving when she's been NXT champion for over a year at this point. You don't want your champions improving. Your champions should be the pinnacle of your business. The top people, not, they're getting there. Wow, every time no. Your champions need to be the top people. And they will never let Kaylee Ray shine, will they? Alba Fire, excuse me. They'll never let her shine, right? Never. Mandy retains. Who cares? Final match of the night was the NXT triple threat match for the NXT triple threat match. The NXT title triple threat match. Braun Breaker defeated Ilya Dragunov and JD McDonough. And then, so finally, we get to the only wrestling match of the night. The only one where I'm like, oh, okay, here we have wrestlers actually chaining moves together, making some drama in the ring, telling me a story in the ring, and some emotion, as opposed to hitting spots and getting to the pay window or throwing weapons at each other. Now we're getting a real deal wrestling match, and I'm stoked for it. And it is by far, the best match of the night. I enjoyed it. And even on a night, if it had been another night where the match quality was higher than what we got, I would still say this was a great match. This was a lot of fun. Good showing by McDonough early on with suplexes all over the place. He avoids getting into a slugfest with Ilya Dragunov. That boy's using his noodle right there. Yeah, there you go. That's some Irish power right there going for you. There's this great sequence on top of that where he's fighting off both dudes, which I really liked. He's pulling his weight here early on. Breaker shows off a lot of power, of course, but the audience is on their hands for Braun Breaker. Have you noticed this? And I don't know if this is the same thing on regular on Tuesday nights. Currently, right now, fuck you, HBK. I don't know if this is like something that happens usually on Tuesday nights, but every time I see Braun with the title in a big time match, and he's hitting his spots and he's going hard, it's people go, whoa, but they're not like up on their feet and cheering for their champion, right? And yet, like, his presentation's cool, his voice is something like he has a very interesting connection that he should be able to develop, just how he expresses himself, his voice, which is very, very Steiner-like, of course. But there's something that once he starts working, right? That it's like, it makes me think that I feel like fans in general, are more in love with the idea of Braun Breaker than Braun Breaker himself, if that makes any sense at all. Because here's the kicker. Here's my main takeaway. I'm already giving my main takeaway from the match here, but I think it's a good time. Here's my main takeaway from this match. The NXT UK guys, Jordan Devlin and Nilia, they absolutely outshined Braun in this match. Like, it's ridiculous. Ilya is a top performer in all of WWE. Like, you look at that guy go. You look at how he presents himself. Everything he does, he's always precise. He never misses his spots. He's a slugger. He's a fighter. He's got this weird kinetic energy, wrestler energy, charisma to him. He's one of the top performers this company has. And whatever your thoughts about Jordan Devlin are, which, it's fine. He's a reliable top spot act. He'll deliver every time. Because Devlin did a lot of fucking heavy lifting in this match. He really did. Anyway, but that's my thought here. It's like the NXT UK guys really, they cast a huge shadow on Braun here, who, again, Paul Levesque is referring to NXT as developmental again, so I can fall back on that response, and I'm like, well, look, they're training Braun Breaker for the top spots. It's developmental. He's gonna grow into it. It's fine, Anyway, Dragunov, he of course starts hammering both guys, and he Death Valley drives McDonough onto Breaker, and he hits a coast-to-coast missile dropkick. Can we stop? Look, we're going to do one of two things when it comes to coast-to-coast missile dropkicks, okay? Are we ready for this? One of two things have to happen now. Either we stop cutting the camera to right behind the guy receiving the coast-to-coast so that you see the guy jumping from all the way, coming in like this, right? Either we stop with that camera cut or we stop doing coast to coasts. It's either, to me, it's either or. Because the allure of a coast to coast is to have the wide shot from the hard cam and having the one dude jump from one end and just, without the hard cam moving, just having one guy go all the way. That's the allure of a coast to coast. Not being on the receiving end. It doesn't tell the story of that move. So all coast to coast, and we've seen a few, and not just in WWE and AEW as well, where they switch the camera angle to that. And I'm like, this is your height, and I know what they're trying to hide, just in case he doesn't quite make it to the corner. A little smoke and mirrors here, a little Houdini here. A little, not Houdini, a little David Copperfield, a little Chris Angel. The emo David Copperfield. I saw Chris Angel. Didn't he do a thing with WWE recently or last year? Wasn't he at an event? And I was like, Christ, this is cringe. Anyway, because he's still acting like he's in his 20s, and he's, he still thinks he has that heroin body. I'm not saying that he did heroin, but you know how a heroin addict's body, very thin and lanky, and now anyway, look, talk about going. What are we talking about? Yeah, so don't do the coast-to-coast spots anymore if you're not going to use the hard cam to make us see the coast-to-coast spot. Otherwise, just don't do them. This is my suggestion to the committee. And then after this, they all start throwing power moves. Torpedo Moscow by Dragunov, but McDonough interrupts the ref's arm. He grabs the ref's arm, and why couldn't the ref, who has his arm like that, why couldn't the ref just go, motherfucker, 3? Like, why is it that suddenly, because it's interrupted, the referee's like, referee brain, right? And the ref goes, my sequence has been undone. And then he falls like into this void, this spiral in his brain where he's like, I don't know how to count one more time. It's a sequence that's been interrupted. It's like, you're bringing down the foundations of the universe. If I'm a ref and, a dude comes in to keep me from doing the final count, I'm like, fuck off, 3. I just lift my arm and bring it down again. Instead of like standing there, I was like, hey, what are you doing? What are you doing? Look at my arm. I'm supposed to count 3. I had fun with this match, as you can tell. But there's a standing Spanish fly on the floor. Another slugfest between Braun Breaker and Ilya, and Torpedo Moscow again. But Braun Breaker interrupts the Torpedo Moscow with a spear for the win. He retains. I hear a lot of comparisons to Braun's reign in NXT UK, in NXT right now, to Roman Reigns, right? Where people are saying, well, who's gonna defeat Braun Breaker? Who's gonna take him down? Who's gonna be the guy who's gonna do it, right? Who'll dethrone him? Exactly like Roman Reigns, right? And then he ends the match with a spear out of nowhere. So I'm like, oh, maybe we're not that far off with these comparisons. Maybe we're not that far off. I still think Carmelo Hayes is the guy to do it. That's my guess. But you know what? This was unquestionably, as I said, the match of the night, the only real deal wrestling match of the entire evening. This show overall is an absolute unequivocal skip on my part. You will never have to think about this match ever again. This show ever again. It was not a good show. Mediocre. So that was NXT Halloween Havoc 19. I have 1996 on the brain now. Yeah, there you go. Thank you, everyone, for still being here, for hanging out. We're not done yet. We're going to still talk a little bit of NXT. If you haven't liked the video right now, why don't you do it? I don't know why you wouldn't do it. Please do it. In the meantime, we are going to just continue. Since we're on the subject of WWE, Nikki Cross showed back up on Raw last night, interfering in the main event. Not that was anything special. Every match last night on Raw finished with some interference. So it's not as if it's like, oh my God, it's like par for the course. Can I just speak really quickly on interference? Very, very quickly. I think interference in to conclude wrestling matches has its place. I think it's a potentially good story device, right? But when all of your matches finish with interferences, like all of them, you're diluting the impact. You're not making them feel important. You're not making them feel significant. It has no rhyme or reason if it happens all the time. And the worst reason you could give for why did this match finish, why was this match a finish, and the only answer you can come up with is, well, you had to protect both guys. It's like, well, why did you have the match in the first place? If you absolutely have to protect both men in a match or women in a match, just don't have the match. And there are also ways to have a match conclude with a clear winner without absolutely burying the other person. That's just proper match construction should be able to do that. Anyway, she attacked the main event, and and she's not a superhero anymore, thank Christ. And I'm excited that look, honestly, here's the thing. I've always liked Nikki Cross, even going back to her days on the independent circuit when she was working in the UK and then doing dates in North America. Like, I've always thought Nikki Cross had something special and a special energy, which I think she channeled really, really well when she was in Sanity back in the days on NXT. And you kind of feel that this is what they want to go forward with. Like, they tried bringing up the Sanity Nikki Cross, but of course, Vince didn't get it, didn't know how to book it, so he reverted her to becoming Alexa Bliss's best friend. We remember this quite significantly, and that really took all the charm out of Nikki Cross. It took everything that made her interesting and just turned her into something else. And the superhero gimmick, I'm going to tell you, no matter how many people will tell me, Warren, you might think it sucked, but it was Nikki's idea. She came up with it and they okayed it. Just because she came up with it doesn't make it any better. Just because she's the wrestler doesn't mean that she has better ideas than everyone else. This was a bad idea, regardless of who came up with it. And it didn't elevate her career. It didn't do anything, but she won Money in the Bank. She went, yes, sure, because Vince wanted to show, look, if you do what I say, I will reward you, kind of thing. Come on now, let's not be stupid. This did nothing to elevate her, and Nikki Cross is kind of like she's a shrug character on WWE. Like Apollo Crews. You're like, okay, it's Apollo Crews. Like, unfortunately, Mustafa Ali now. You're like, Mustafa Ali shows up in all right. Like, good wrestlers, talented wrestlers, people that I like, talent that I like, but they've been booked so terribly and weirdly that I can't get behind them anymore, because I feel like whatever I get involved in them, the rug gets pulled from under their feet, and then we're back to basics with them. And I think this is the problem that we're going to see with Nikki Cross. As much as I'm like, look, she's coming across as crazy, as nuts, because she was attacking everyone. She didn't care if you were babyface or heel. She was just beating the shit out of you. And people are like, oh, maybe Nikki Cross is going to be on the Bayley's team for War Games. At this point, I'm like, let Nikki Cross have her own team, a team of one, and let her go about it, right? Let her go. But I'm excited because I remember fondly the Nikki Cross of NXT, of Sanity, the crazy woman that I really liked, the unhinged Nikki Cross. That to me was the peak of her career as far as her as a wrestler, her character. So I look at her arrive and I'm like, fucking right. It's about time we revert back to this, right? And then I'm thinking, but all it's doing is preying upon my nostalgia for what Nikki Cross used to be. And yet she's been up on main she's been up there since before the pandemic, right? She's been on main for 3 years easily. And they didn't manage to make me care for her. And why would I think they'd be able to do any different now? Just because Triple H is in charge and he's sort of bringing back everything that made NXT? Because I think this is kind of what I'm starting to define Paul Levesque's era on main roster right now is, remember when you liked this person in NXT? Remember Dexter Lumis? You liked him. Remember Johnny Gargano? You liked him. Remember Kevin Owens when he was the prize fighter? Well, here you go. I think that's how I'm going to see this moving forward. It's not as much Paul taking the reins and bringing WWE down this daring new vision. It's like no. It's like, remember back when NXT was really good, when it was on the network and we taped at Full Sail, we'd tape a month's worth of shows and you'd watch 1 hour a week and then you'd go nuts for our takeovers. Remember that? Well, Nikki Cross was a part of that too. And she was crazy like this shit. And you remember that. You liked that. He's trying so hard to make people be like, hey, this isn't Vince. Because Vince never understood what made NXT special or the wrestlers special. He'd get the wrestlers and he'd reimagine them, right? He'd fuck with the concepts. Like, this is not why we like so-and-so. This is not why we like so-and-so. And if anything, Raw over the past few weeks, I'm telling you guys, okay, listen, I am trying my very best to sit down and watch WWE programming because there is a significance to Paul Levesque taking over, to Vince McMahon no longer booking WWE, not being involved in pro wrestling anymore. I am trying my best to watch WWE programming to see these changes, because we are in complete uncharted territory. No matter who's in charge, Vince is gone. This is historical. These are historical moments that we're living through right now. The first few months, the first year of World Wrestling Entertainment not having Vince McMahon at its head. This is so. If anything, as a guy who loves to plunder wrestling history, who wants to see how things develop, who wants to get a better understanding of how things are, I promise you, I'm doing my best watching Raw, watching SmackDown. I'm doing my best. I'm trying to keep an open mind as much as possible. But folks, the past 3 weeks of Raw have been dreadful. It's been the same dreary, tired shows. But Warren, you got what you wanted. They have more wrestling on. The matches are longer, and that's what you want. You like wrestling, don't you, Warren? So you got your wrestling and you're still bitching, Warren? Matches are longer. Fine. I still have to sit through so much shit. And not all the matches are great. Do you think? And there's stuff that I've seen so many times before. Like the Omos stuff from last night, where he's fighting 4 guys at once. Shout out Sal Ronaldo. 4 guys at once. I've seen this before. His name was Andre the Giant, and he was much better at it than he ever was, than Omos ever has been. There's nothing new for me. This is not like for every let's say, for every Johnny Gargano Chad Gable match that we get, for every Kevin Owens Drew McIntyre match that we have to sit through Dexter Lumis nonsense. We have to sit through DX shouting penis at the top of their lungs. We have to sit through The Miz talking about his testicles. We're not that far off from what Vince used to do, folks. There's more wrestling, and it's a 3 fucking hour show. So what am I getting? I'm getting 40 minutes of content, which is really, really great, and the rest is just dreary. And I didn't think last night's show was all that inspired, regardless of who was in. I thought the opening match, I thought Karl Anderson and Finn Balor was fine. But lack of energy throughout the entire show. And people were bitching about the audience. I'm like, well, look, honestly, if I were there and I was listening to this show, in that I wouldn't be up on my feet cheering. Everyone is putting in half-ass efforts here. And ratings wise, again, I'm gonna preface this by saying, I am not Mr. Top Ratings Analyzer Man. Okay, I do, very basic observations, right? But I can make comparisons for year to year over year, from this year and last year. We're in the same spot ratings wise, like literally. And I'm able to do this thanks to Brandon Thurston of WrestleNomics, because I'm a member of his Patreon, and we have access to data sheets with all the ratings information for all wrestling shows dating back decades. So I'm watching. And I go back and I check, like, same time last year for Monday Night Raw, the ratings are similar. We're like a difference of 200,000 people. In like not even 200,000, just a few tens of thousands people difference in overall viewership, and like a 0.2 difference in the demo. We're at the same point as we was in 2021, and this is supposed to be the rejuvenated WWE. This is the one that that everyone keeps telling me that Triple H is tearing down the old guard and bringing in all the great stuff, and I'm not connecting, and clearly I'm not the only one, because Raw is at the exact same spot it was that it was last year at this very same date. And even the Bray Wyatt bump that we saw for a couple of weeks wasn't there last Friday either. Last Friday, we're back to normal levels for SmackDown as far as ratings go. So, I don't know what to tell you. The shows are dreary. The shows are hard to watch. We're trying to push Logan Paul as a babyface. What world are we living in? What is this bullshit? Logan Paul, one of the most naturally dislikable human beings. He doesn't even have to try to be disliked. He it's fine. It's not even an act. I swear to you, I promise, I am trying my best, and I'm trying to keep an open mind. There's things that I see that are different, but all the moves that he made, where I was like, this is going to become very mid very soon, are all becoming mid as per I expected, such as Hit Row. What did I tell you guys in regards to Hit Row? I told you, look, they brought the Chio back. That's great. Ashante Adonis is a fantastic worker. Top Dollar is one of the most dislikable humans on the roster. He should be a babyface. And B-Fab is a great valet. What's missing? They're missing the talent. They're missing the charisma. They're missing the show. They're missing Swerve. Swerve was the glue to all of those three. And I swear, people were telling me, Top Dollar's going to be fine. He's going to be on top of things. He's going to save this. He's going to be able to carry the crew. He's not carrying shit. Hit Row is terrible now. But to be expected. They're missing the key component. Swerve. Swerve was the element. Anyway. I'm going to keep watching, and I'm again, like I really want to focus everything I do on the podcast on Tuesdays moving forward on, things that I really like, or things that are outrageously egregious. Like I don't want to do deep dives on Raw or SmackDown because it's just going to end up frustrating me. It's going to end up frustrating you. It's really Christ Warren only talks about what he doesn't like. And I want to talk about things that I like. And that's why Nikki Cross showing up last night, turns out it's a good thing. I hope it's not too late for her. Does that make sense? Let's talk about AEW a bit. Again, don't forget if you like AEW and you want to hear me talk more about AEW, I do my AEW Dynamite reviews on Thursdays. I don't do them on Wednesdays because Wednesdays is the show. I do them on Thursdays. Brand new. It's a new thing that I've added to the channel and to the podcast feed as well, so no one is going to miss out. So we won't, so no longer do we talk in depth in regards to AEW Dynamite here on the show, because I have my own review show for that. So you can go check that out. And be sure to subscribe so that you don't miss out on that on Thursday. Or follow if you're on a podcast, whatever. Willow Nightingale. She got herself the graphic. Willow Nightingale got herself a graphic. I don't know if you guys can see this properly. Here, I can't even see if I'm doing it properly. No, you can't really see right here. But right there, one day I'll take a nice picture of it. Right there, right there. That is a signed autograph picture of Willow Nightingale when I met her at a C4 show a couple of months ago. Such an extraordinary, warm human being. Chatted with her. I am so fucking happy. And how long have I been on Twitter and whatnot clamoring like, Tony Khan, what the fuck are you doing? Now, apparently this had been set for a while, that she was under a deal. This isn't like pulling a rabbit out of the hat. But now she's full-time. Now, she can't book as many, her indie dates have to go through AEW now and so on and so forth. Now she's into the process. Whereas before, it was probably, one of the tiered deals that they have. It doesn't matter. The point is that she has the full graphic because finally, Tony's putting on his big boy pants and he's like, hey, you know what? This lady is getting really good reactions from the crowd. Plus, on top of that, hey, you know what? She's pretty damn good at pro wrestling. She's a 7-year vet into this. Maybe I should keep her here, make her one of our own, and make a good star out of her, as opposed to Jim Ross on fucking commentary saying, she's only 5 years in the business, she's still green. Calling her fucking green on commentary the night she gets the graphic. What a seal of approval there, Jim. He was so bad on Rampage. He was bad. And I say this and I tweet it and people are like, oh, evergreen, Warren, evergreen. But he's been particularly worse. And I think it is time for someone to put their big boy pants on and say, you know what, Jim? Thank you. Thank you for all your contributions to pro wrestling. You deserve a warrior's rest. You've done everything you could, and we appreciate everything you do, because I do. I appreciate and respect Jim Ross, the announcer, legendary voice of pro wrestling, right up there with Gordon Soley, for fuck's sake. No one even comes in close to a third. No one. No one more iconic. But Ross, now on commentary for AEW, brings Jack nothing. He contributes nothing. He slows things down. He's sitting around trying to pal with Tony Schiavone. All right, Tony, they called it a suicide. Can you believe that, Tony? Like, Jesus Christ. Lance Russell. Okay, I'll give you that, chat. Good point. Lance Russell. I personally, I can't stand him anymore. And what happened with Willow on Rampage is the absolute proof of how disconnected he is with anything that's happening in AEW, because he's saying to a woman who is about to have a spot in the ring with a commentator who is going to tell her, give a feel-good moment to the audience, live in Jacksonville, live watching at home, you are now all elite. And 3 minutes before that, he's saying she's a rookie, she still needs work. My God. That's all the proof you need. That's how disconnected he is right now. I don't miss him on Dynamite. And I don't miss him on Dynamite. Any combination, any combo that AEW puts together on commentary table is better without Jim Ross. Any one. They put Excalibur, Taz, and then they rotate like William Regal or Tony or fucking Ian Riccaboni or Caprice Coleman, and they all rule. They have Paul White and Matt Menard on the YouTube show. They rule. And they put Jim Ross in that spot, and everyone has to carry him. He's in the twilight of his career. As chat said here, he's in the twilight of his career. He's given everything that had to be given. He will always be remembered as one of the all-time greats, one of the top 2 all-time greats. Because you could argue, people will put him at number 1 on the test on their list and be like, that's fine. Other people will put solely at the top of the list and be like, that's fine. He's got nothing to prove, and he's just tarnishing his legacy. And I wish there were people out there on Twitter who are like, you have to respect JR. First of all, I don't have to respect anyone. I get to choose who I respect. I don't care what your body of work is. I don't care. I get to choose. So I don't have to respect JR. I choose to respect JR for what he's done as a commentator, as a play-by-play man in the business. He is untouchable. And it is entirely possible to be respectful of the man and yet think that his work now stinks and that he should step away. I think those two are I don't think they're interchangeable. I think they can run in parallel very, very easily. Yes, and as chat says here, he's better suited for the preview specials as a talking head and as a sit-down interviewer. You know why? Because he has that gravitas about him. He has because it is fucking Jim Ross. And you're sitting down to Jim Ross, and Jim Ross he's going to ask you, he's a straight shooter, and he's going to ask you the real questions, and he has that down-home feeling of trust. You will trust what Jim Ross has to tell you, right? That's his gimmick. Not trying to put over new talent or trying to bury new talent on TV. Jesus Christ. And no. Keep him out of main events. I don't even want him calling main events. His contributions to main events like Hangman Page, he's a strong guy. He's very strong, Tony. And Tony Schiavone's like, yep, that's right, Jim. He's very strong. Because no one wants to bury Jim Ross. No one's going to sit there and be like, well, come on, Jim. Everyone knows he's strong. They're going to be, yep. No, keep him as far away as as possible from world title matches. He brings nothing to the table. He doesn't understand the stories. He doesn't understand what's going on. And he has his wrestlers that he really likes and those that he really does not like. And that tints everything that he does. He can't hide it anymore. He's got a podcast for that shit. He's got a podcast where he can go say, Ace Steel did good work. That's what it's for. Willow Nightingale got the got the graphic though. She's full on, and she is a great get, and I'll tell you why. Because there is no other woman on that roster who looks and feels like her. There is not another woman on that roster who is built like her, who wrestles the style she does, and who has such a natural baby face. Has that goofiness about her. No one else. Like she is going to stand out in that, not, to a degree, kind of like when they brought in Jake Hager early on, when Jake Hager instantly became the biggest man on the roster because everyone was more around 5'10" to 6'1", all cruiserweights. Jake Hager comes in, he looks like a fucking giant, So you're like, oh, okay, I get it. I'm not. She's much better than Jake Hager. Don't try to put words in my mouth here. I'm just saying, she stands out like him in this pack of women that they have right now. Anyway, I'm glad she's on. Let's just get more women on the show now. Tony Khan. All signs are pointing to the Elite coming back to AEW. This is the latest that we've learned. We learned last week. I think it was on Friday or something like that. It was in the Observer, right? That CM Punk. Here, let me pull it up. That's how prepared I am right now. Let me pull this up here, because I just realized I talked about this. I talked about this on the members only stream, which you can get by becoming a member of the Mr. Warren Hayes Show channel. I discussed some stuff that had popped up in the Observer last week regarding CM Punk. Quick second here. Okay. So in last week's Observer, Dave Meltzer was talking about the fact that Ace Steel had been released from AEW earlier last week, and he was saying, and I'll read this textually, quote here: "Those with close knowledge of the situation said they are in talks with Punk about a buyout of the remaining years of his contract, which tells you that they are not looking to bring him back. The holdup right now is said to be the non-compete period. Obviously, if the non-compete is an issue, it's about interest in going to WWE, because there's no need for a non-compete otherwise, because nobody else but AEW and WWE can pay him close to what he was making." So, that was from the Observer that it popped out that Dave clearly was very happy that people would stop stonewalling him, and he was getting some news now. The most recent batch of reports have indeed, there was a report coming from the Torch that said that most of the locker room in AEW just did not want CM Punk back to begin with. But the most recent batch of reports have stated that AEW is not looking to bring CM Punk back, and that the locker room consensus, like I said, is very anti-Punk. And just this morning on Wrestling Observer Radio, Dave Meltzer noted just how unique the situation is and how disappointing it might feel to fans that the company haven't been able to salvage the situation. And I'm going to read the quotes here off of WrestlePurists.com. Quote, this is Dave. "It's so unlike most organizations in the sense that when you've got the big star, in this case CM Punk, and I know a lot of the locker room is very negative to him, But when you've got your big drawing card and something like that happens, you try to salvage it, save it. I know a lot of people are disappointed. I'm not saying the decision is wrong, considering how much time they put into the decision. And you know that, again, you're not going to get rid of your big drawing card unless it's way, way, way over the bounds. Because, this is Dave continuing here, because you're always going to get a second chance. And he did after the Adam Page promo, where he got that impromptu deal. Let's say Sammy Guevara, for example. Sammy Guevara has a problem with Andrade, but he's not feuding with him or anything. Just out of nowhere, while Andrade is backstage, Sammy just cuts that impromptu promo like Punk did to Page. Sammy gets fired from that. No question about it, right? Punk didn't because he's Punk, and that's probably bought him extra. I don't know what that means. But then the other two things happen. So many people have brought up to me the idea of turning this into an angle, which certainly UFC would have turned this into an angle if the guys were in the same weight class and promoted the hell out of it and been happy to do so. And WWE would have as well. But maybe in this situation, AEW felt that they just needed to not turn it into an angle. And I know a lot of the talent felt that. This thing feels like it's wrapping up. It feels like the Young Bucks and Omega are coming back somewhat soon. It's not official or anything like that. Just that feeling. There's been teases and stuff. Unquote. So this is where we're at right now, right? Where, last week I was talking about a thaw that was, I was talking about a thaw that happened in regards to the situation with, the Elite showing up the Elite being mentioned on AEW programming. I mentioned and CM Punk's face actually being in a Ring of Honor video package, and then a Steel getting fired. All signs of things coming to a head, right? Where we're finally getting rid of all the nonsense here. Clearly, this is quite possibly what CM Punk wanted in this situation. I'm going to jump around here in my thoughts here. Bear with me. Clearly what CM Punk wanted here after this situation exploded was, well, look, if you want to get rid of me, you're going to buy out the rest of my contract. You're just going to buy out the rest of my contract. And the more we hear about it, the more scraps of news are making it to the rounds. We're hearing that the whole situation was regarding a non-compete, right? If I buy out your contract, well, you have to respect a non-compete for so many. Those are little details here. Of course, there's a lot of people who are, who flat out say there is no way CM Punk is ever going back to the Fed. He's never heading back to World Wrestling Entertainment in any way, shape, or form. And that's probably not untrue. Although I argued on the members only show, I argued that CM Punk on the Brock deal makes a lot of sense. What does WWE want? They want to sell tickets. They want to pop ratings. We don't know what the business is with their PLEs on Peacock, probably views, but they want people to tune in. You have CM Punk come in at strategic moments in the year, have him come in for WrestleMania, have him come in for SummerSlam, have him come in for the Rumble, and that's it. So CM Punk on the Brock deal makes a lot of sense. Elizabeth, nice to see you. Welcome to the chat. Now, as Chad also pointed out, it would be extremely hypocritical of him to do so. But if there is anything that we should have learned from CM Punk by now, if there's anything that we have collected as far as information goes, is that he is a very petty human being. And he's ready to do very petty things. It shouldn't be that much of a problem for him, right? If he just wants to stick it to Tony Khan, he wants to stick it to Kenny Omega and the Bucks, and that's what he does. And he brings Ace Steel with him. But I have read reports where out the gate, Triple H's attitude is, oh hell no, because those two don't get along. But there's you can still think that maybe that maybe Trips would be able to skip over some personal feelings just to do some good business and stick it to AEW. I could definitely see that. Don't hate the player, hate the game, right? Anyway, I think it's interesting that Dave here is also talking about that promo that he cut on Hangman Page a little out of nowhere. And this is something that we have to remember, right? Because this is the thing that, we had a lot of discourse when the brawl at All Out happened. The brawl out, I think, is the term that's been coined. We've had a lot of discussion around it, a lot of discourse, and everyone was like, if someone hits an employee in my job, he gets fired. So fire his ass, right? He swung, he connected, he's out of here. But what everyone forgets is that these people are not cubicle jockeys. I'm saying that lovingly because I'm one of those. These are not office workers. They're not, it's pro wrestling. It's entertainment. It is a whole other ball game. And quite unfortunately / fortunately, depending on which side you fall on, CM Punk getting preferential treatment in this situation and not being fired instantly makes sense. Makes a ton of sense. Maybe that's not what you want to hear, but that's the reality of it. And I don't know what any other promotion would have done. This is your top guy. It's CM Punk. He's involved in nonsense. What are you going to do? Going to tell, all right, hit the bricks. No, he's your top draw. He's the guy. He's responsible for some of your up to date, your most successful year of your company. Him. Sold out the United Center on the rumor he was going to be there. So of course, CM Punk gets a pass. Sammy Guevara goes into the ring and cuts a promo on his own. Yeah, he hits the bricks. He gets fired. He gets sent home. Absolutely. Is it fair? Of course not. It's not fair. But CM Punk is in a position where that kind of consideration happens because he is a business asset, because he has that position in the company where you just can't turn him off and say, okay, we're done. Of course, it's much more complicated than that. And it's not just a question of, well, this investigation has taken forever. No, the investigation has probably been done. And then they had to tie up the loose ends. They had to come to a decision, and there were probably negotiations that came in with that decision. I absolutely see, that this was the longest part, that it wasn't the investigation that was the longest part. Tony Khan got the results of the investigation, had to sit down with CM Punk and his entourage of lawyers, whatever, said, look, we have to negotiate your exit now because we are not retaining your services. And he's not just going to fire. You can't. You can't just spin around and say, I'm firing this guy. It's not just he's not an employee. He's not a scrub. This guy didn't come in with a handshake and a pat on the back and saying, yeah, let's go. He had a contract. How many? I would love to see the provisos that were in this contract. All the top guys do. If you think Mox and Jericho, who both of them just re-signed for 5 years and 3 years, that they just like, yeah, okay, where do I sign? Of course not. That's not how it goes. These are top talent. They're top guys. And Tony sees them as top guys, sees them as assets to the company. So we're going the extra mile. He's giving them a little more. So they're asking, they're getting a little more. They're asking for a little more. Christ. These are businesses. I'm glad that we're getting closer to the ultimate realization that, or the ultimate denouement, not realization, but the conclusion, the wrap up of all of this, which was inevitably, I feel, the Elite returning to All Elite Wrestling. Kenny Omega, the Bucks, coming back to where they belong. I would not have been upset if Kenny Omega hit the bricks and was like, no, you know what? Keep CM Punk. I'm going to WWE. I'm going to be number 12 in the Royal Rumble or whatever. This would have been fine. It's all a business. Kenny Omega does what he wants to do. But it makes much more sense that they're going to circle back, come home like that. It makes a lot more sense. So I'm not going to, oh God, the Elite are going to be cheered. They're going to get an enormous pop. I don't think we even have to worry about that. I think people miss them. So, I don't want to dig too deep into I think at some point eventually I am going to talk about do a post-mortem on CM Punk's AEW tenure, because I think it's important. I think it's something that we have to do. But I'm curious. I'm curious to see how it all shakes out. I don't think the time is just yet because nothing's been confirmed, and we might be just a couple of days away from people showing up on TV again. We'll see. We'll see what happens. I'm excited to see what's going to happen. Who's ready to talk New Japan Pro Wrestling? I'll tell you who's ready. This guy. We're going to continue on this. Well, first of all, okay, FTR this week, yesterday if I'm not mistaken, have been added to the lineup for New Japan's Battle Autumn show in Osaka on November 5th. They released a promo on Twitter, they being FTR, announcing that FTR is set for the Saturday, November 5 show, which is the tour, the final night of the tour, of the Battle Autumn tour. FTR cut the promo challenging New Japan to present them with the best possible challengers. No indication at this point was given whether or not FTR's match will be a title bout, nor who they will be facing. The duo currently hold the New Japan Pro Wrestling's top titles, the tag team titles, the IWGP heavyweight tag team titles, and that's exciting. That's exciting and also very frightening, and maybe even a little sad in my thoughts. Because here's the thing, what I wanted out of FTR being IWGP heavyweight tag team champions was for them to be in World Tag League, which starts on November 21st. Now, if you're the champions, you are in World Tag League. And in case you don't know what World Tag League is, it's like the G1, but for tag teams, round robin tournament. Nothing's been announced aside from the date. Starts November 21st, runs to December 14th, with probably the finals, well, not the finals, but the winner of World Tag League facing the champions at Wrestle Kingdom. That's my guess. So this is what I wanted, because I like FTR. I'm an FTR fan, and this is a career year for them. Why not top it off doing one of New Japan's top tournaments, their top tag team tournament actually, and having a go at it, which is something I would love to see. I would love to see FTR mix it up with tag teams that we don't get to see in North America. I absolutely love that. But here's the problem. Here's the kicker. Ring of Honor announced Final Battle, which is going to be on December 10. December 14 is the last day of World Tag League. So we don't know what the block compositions are like yet. We probably won't know until Battle Autumn is done, because if they announced it too soon, it'd probably give a lot of stuff away for Battle Autumn. So we probably won't know until the Battle Autumn show is gone and in the books, but I'm afraid that this means FTR is going to drop the titles in Osaka. And that bums me out. Unless, unless the night blocks are set up so that FTR can fly back to the US for the 10th, do Final Battle, and fly back to Japan to finish up the league, which I don't know. I want to be hopeful, but I think it's not looking good for the FTR boys in World Tag League, which I'm not going to lie, kind of bums me out. So if it's not impossible at this point, but I think it's better to lower your expectations I think it's better to temper your expectations at this point rather than get really, really excited. Now, as I pointed out, we don't know if the match in Osaka is for the titles or not. We don't know who they're fighting. If I'm not mistaken, following commentary and stuff, I think right now New Japan considers Great-O-Khan and Jeff Cobb to be the number one contenders for the titles. I thought it was interesting that they started talking about number one contendership before World Tag League. So my spidey sense is tingling, and it all feels like an FTR loss. This would be FTR's first match in Japan on top of that, which kind of would also blow. There's a bunch of things that would blow. I don't know. I'm going to keep my expectations low and then be really surprised. Under-deliver. Under-promise, over-deliver. Okay, so there's more stuff coming out of the Karl Anderson situation, right? That we spoke about last week, where Karl Anderson ends up being double booked for the aforementioned Osaka show for New Japan, the end of Battle Autumn, where he's supposed to be defending the Never title against Hikuleo, right? And then there's this whole thing. Now he's going to Saudi Arabia. He's double booked. And he and Luke Gallows made a video saying, hey, you know what? You didn't go through the proper channels, New Japan. We love you, but, we're going to go to Japan on our time, so on and so forth. Wow! New Japan president Takami Obari released a video on the Twitter saying that they're doing everything they can to ensure all matches listed for November 5 in Osaka take place as advertised. This is the shoot president of New Japan. This isn't a Jack Tunney situation. This is the guy. I'm going to read this off of the Figure 4 online. Never openweight champion Karl Anderson was scheduled to defend his title against Hikuleo on the show. Anderson was later announced for a match at WWE Crown Jewel that same date, however. The Good Brothers released a video last week claiming that New Japan confirmed the November 5 date with them and said Anderson would not be defending his title at the Battle Bottom event. Obari took to social media to say that they are working to ensure the match takes place and that they expect all wrestlers, quote, to honor their advertised commitments. The quote continues. We are doing all we can to ensure every signed match in Osaka on November 5 happens as promised. We expect all wrestlers, especially champions, to honor their advertised commitments. Obari also said in a Tokyo Sports interview last week that he is angry about the situation involving Anderson and the title. Now, last week, I mostly made a lot of fun of everyone, losing their shit over the never open weight title not being defended. And I'm like, okay, if that's sure. Okay, then, But the developments continued this week. Now, a lot of people saw this. It's like, oh shit, president's getting involved. This is getting serious. We have some notes provided to us by the Voices of Wrestling here in regards to the never title situation. I'm going to read off of their report that they have up on their Patreon. It's been a couple of days. I don't think they'll mind at this point if I quote some stuff. According to a New Japan source, this was not a situation where Anderson or Gallows blindsided the company. As New Japan were well aware of the pair were in ongoing negotiations with WWE, and when a deal was struck, they immediately informed the New Japan office of all known WWE dates they were being booked for, which included November 5. So straight out the gate, God bless New Japan Pro Wrestling President Takami Obari, but he's in on it. He's working the work here. The key here is that New Japan was aware Anderson would not be available for the November 5 Osaka show date before the card was announced. Again, this is according to Voices of Wrestling and their sources, which they're pretty good. Anderson defending the never openweight title against Hikuleo was always the plan. Someone pitched announcing the match anyway, knowing full well Anderson wouldn't be making the date, and then turning the situation into a storyline, with the idea being Anderson is ducking Hikuleo, with the company furious and fearing he's going to take their championship to WWE and never return. The typical course of action in New Japan is to strip championships of a wrestler if they cannot make a date, for any reason, with the protection of kayfabe taking precedence over booking directions. However, we've seen the company bend a bit on that policy in recent years, specifically during Jon Moxley's IWGP US title reign during the heart of the COVID-19 travel restrictions. We've been told the Japanese commentary team has been instructed to put the storyline over hard. Hikuleo has been pushing the story in his backstage comments and on Twitter as well. Anderson and Hikuleo have been sniping at each other publicly and on social media, and the New Japan office has already begun planting the story in places like Tokyo Sports to get the angle over. So, as of this writing though, this is again from Voices of Wrestling, it is not believed that there is a deal in place yet for Anderson to drop the title. It won't be on the Battle Autumn Tour. After that, it's World Tag League and Super Junior Tag League that begins on November 21st, wrapping up in Sendai on December 14. Then you get the Road to Tokyo Dome Christmas week. The Korakuen Hall shows on December 22 and 23rd are the final events before Wrestle Kingdom, but it is unlikely they would do a title change on either of those shows because at that point, the Wrestle Kingdom lineups will already be set. So we might still have Karl Anderson heading to Wrestle Kingdom in the Dome to drop the title to Hikuleo. I'm going to tell you, this has been a very good work. And a lot of people got really fucking worked. Really worked. It's not as dramatic or desperate as a lot of people made it out to be. I saw a lot of comments that this is bad business. It might be, it could be, because here's what I find interesting. I'll tell you what I find most interesting in this situation is it's WWE letting this happen. And they're not mentioning it at all, I think they're missing out on a bit of business here. Because I'm trying to say too many things at once. Many people I've read are like, Karl Anderson is the forbidden door between WWE and New Japan. And I disagree with that. Because if this was going on, he'd show up with the belt on TV. They'd reference it. There's no word about it. WWE is absolutely not putting over the fact that Karl Anderson is, not honoring dates in New Japan as some kind of heel thing or whatever. There's a business opportunity here that could potentially exist, but they're not going for it. They're staying in their WWE silo here. They're not referencing the outside world in something that is very current and contemporary that they could potentially lean into if they wanted to. And hint at maybe a working relationship with New Japan. But that's not what's happening here. Because everything Karl Anderson is doing regarding the Never title and New Japan is happening on social media away from the bright lights of WWE cameras and stage work. Stage sets. Stage dressing. So I kind of think that this is a bad business decision for WWE to not even remotely take advantage of it, because I think that would make all of this a lot more interesting. I think it would make Karl Anderson showing up on Raw a lot more interesting than it is now, because, we're instantly back to, what the Good Brothers do best, and that is doing penis jokes. Not exactly the most compelling television right now. Clearly, WWE doesn't have a problem with whatever New Japan is finagling here. But the fact that WWE is not addressing it, sort of like taking the high road up in regards to it, when it is all clearly a work, I think it's a bit of a shitty business decision. So, to all of those who are out there, all of these, again, people who claim to follow the business and be aware, look, I may run a D-list podcast, but this is why I tell you, what was I telling you last week? It all smacks of a work. Everyone chill the fuck out. Stop getting excited about the never open weight title of all fucking things, because it's all going to work out. Or at least just come out and say, honestly, I fucking hate Karl Anderson for ditching my favorite promotion. That to me is much more honorable than trying to build reasons and trying to create logic around, well, New Japan has to do this. This is unforgivable. This is, I've never seen this, unprecedented. It's all bullshit. Just come out and say, Karl Anderson is a fucking son of a bitch. He's a mercenary, and he's ditching my favorite promotion. That I have respect for. But if you're going around, Hikuleo should get the title automatically. I'm like, oh, come on, hit the bricks now. Come on. I may run a D-list podcast, but I promise you I'm the best goddamn D-list podcast you will listen to when it comes to pro wrestling. I will not steer you wrong. Purposefully. Okay, let's wrap this up with some quick talk on the New Japan World TV title tournament that's been ongoing for about 2 weeks, 10 days. Yeah, we're going through the first round. I've been keeping up with the tournament. It's all part of the Battle Autumn shows right now. we're almost done with the first knockout round. Let's go over what's been going down so far. First and foremost, the first two matches happened on October 14 in Korakuen Hall. We had David Finlay defeating Yoshinobu Kanemaru and Zack Sabre Jr. knocking out Alex Zane. These were two well-worked matches. I particularly liked the Zack Sabre Jr. Alex Zane match, as it really worked in the time limit in that one. I thought they did good here because they're 15-minute time limit matches, which is unusual in New Japan, but this is going to be the running theme for the TV title. Hello, Heather. Welcome. Nice to see you. So we get to the point where these two are so we get to the point where these two are scrambling towards the end, trying to get their matches on. This was very good matches. Two fun. Hang on, dial it back one. Two fun matches. Good ways to kick it off. Then on the 15th, the next day, again from Korakuen Hall, Evil defeated Aaron Henare and Yoshihashi defeated Jeff Cobb. Now, Henare losing was my first real deal disappointment because, as we may recall, New Japan decided to create this belt, and they made a whole big thing in the middle of the ring, a big ceremony, saying that this tournament was going to be for establishing younger stars, fast paced, so on and so forth, and we get fucking Evil winning the match here, and I'm like, what are we even doing? Whereas Aaron Henare would have been one of a few very suitable candidates in this regard, under this vision of younger guys that need to be elevated. He would have been a very good fit. There's a couple of guys like this in this tournament. He would have been a very good fit, especially since they build him as a powerhouse, right? He no-sells chair shots. He's just doing incredible shit in the ring. But apparently Dick Togo and the Lights Out gimmick is truly invincible. As for Yoshihashi and Jeff Cobb, that was a lot of fun. Perennial underdog Yoshihashi versus the Beast, who reverses a Tour of the Islands for the win. It was a good, fun little match there as well. And I'm looking at the titles, and I'm going to, they'll probably give it to Yoshihashi, who has not had a singles title in his entire career in New Japan. But then again, here's a guy who's 43 years old. It's like, all right. I don't know what they're doing with this title right now. I'm not going to lie. October 16 in Nagoka, we had Kenta defeating Hiroki Goto and Sanada defeating Taichi. Kenta and Goto was fine enough, but Sanada and Taichi delivered the first really good match of this tournament. Two guys who know each other quite well and that you have the impression get along swimmingly backstage. Great pace in this match. It felt like it was meaningful, that both guys really wanted the win, which is something you need to do if you're establishing a tournament, right? You're putting in guys there who work hard to try and get the win, because that's how the title means something. 1 minute left to the match. Sanada lets go of Skull End, lands the moonsault. Taichi kicks out. He goes back. He being Sanada goes back for the moonsault. Taichi lifts his knees. Taichi then goes for an inside cradle. Sanada then with a Nakano roll, which is blocked by Taichi, reversed into a Gedo clutch. Sanada kicks out and reverses into a Nakano roll for the win with just a few seconds left on the clock. Great match. This one was very, very, very good. Enjoyed it tremendously. So now, that's where we're at right now. We have two more matches left on the knockout round, which is going to happen later on tonight is when I'm recording this, or tomorrow on the 26th. Ren Narita is going to be taking on Tomohiro Ishii, and the Great Okan taking on Toru Yano. Now, if I am going with the idea of youth and, elevating new talent, I am absolutely having Ren Narita go over Tomohiro Ishii. Ishii is one of the older guys on the tournament, on the roster, and his time is toast at this. his better years are behind him at this point. He still puts on great matches, but you don't, in a tournament of youth, you don't put Tommy Ishii on this one moving forward. Great-O-Khan versus Yano. Here's one rule that I forgot, I didn't specify. If the match goes time to the 15-minute time limit, there is a coin toss that happens to determine the winner. I don't believe that there is any other I don't believe there is another more suitable match than to have the coin toss business happen than Great-O-Khan versus Yano. But then again, do I want a 15-minute Great-O-Khan Yano match? I like Yano. I love Yano in small doses. Then we're going to move to the quarterfinals after these last two knockout matches. David Finlay will be taking on Zack Sabre Jr. on October 27, along with Yoshihashi versus Evil on the same night. Then we're going to get Sanada versus Kenta on October 30th, and the winner of Ren Narita versus Tomohiro Ishii versus the winner of Great-O-Khan versus Yano, again on the 30th. So I think as it stands right now, I'm excited to see David Finlay versus Zack Sabre Jr. If Finlay brings his A game, this should be a blast. Kenta is always hit or miss. It depends on what kind of mood he's in. I feel like Sanada, he might do something here. Yoshihashi versus Evil. Look, it's an Evil match, so I couldn't care less. I hope we get Ren Narita versus Great-O-Khan for the other quarterfinal match. I really want Ren Narita to win this. Like, if it really is a youth-oriented one, look, you brought in your stars. You got the big guys. You have the Zack Sabre Juniors and the Evils and the Sonatas and the Kentas, and you have all the big names to not just make this feel like a junior level title, but you have one of the rising crust, you know. So I'm hoping Ren Narita goes for it. But look, like all these matches, these are some final thoughts here before we wrap things up. All of these matches here were main events throughout the Battle Autumn Tour, which I get is a warm-up tour, right? These are to the final Battle Autumn show in Osaka on November 5th. And I get it, okay? These aren't electrifying main events for the big shows, but we could have had more matches over deliver like Taichi and Sanada did, right? Look, and there's multiple reasons why this didn't happen. Maybe Gedo didn't want it. Maybe the guys didn't want it. But if you want your title to feel important, right? This new title that you're creating, that you're going to put a lot of focus on, that you're going to book these matches and put them out for free on social media, on YouTube, full matches for free. Make the fucking title feel important. Only one really good match out of the entire knockout round is not a good look. Make it feel special. I get it. It's not the New Japan Cup. It's not the G1. But if you're going to elevate someone, maybe Ren Narita, my fingers are still crossed. If you're still going to, or you're going to put it on Yoshihashi, make the goddamn thing feel special. Make the matches intense, hard fought, fighting spirit, all of that stuff. Because right now it's kind of floundering a little bit, and it's not that floundering. Not exactly that. They don't feel remarkable. The matches don't feel special. And I think they absolutely could feel more special. But y'all are very special for hanging out to the very end of the weekly wrestling inspection. How was that for a first recording on a Tuesday evening? Not bad. I enjoyed it. Very chill. I enjoyed it tremendously. Guys and gals, I want to thank you all for joining me live here, if you were here live, for the very first Tuesday night recording on youtube.com/MrWarrenHayes. Remember, Tuesday nights, 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 Central. That is the new rendezvous. That is the new spot, right? That's where you come in. Otherwise, Thursdays, Dynamite Review. Fridays, members only, Going Broadway. I love doing those. Become a member. Be like Rob Zerver. Like he did tonight. They did tonight. I don't want to assume. Like they did tonight. Become a member of the Mr. Warren Hayes Show channel. Show some support, and then you get extra content. You get to chat more with me on Fridays for the fantastic show. That is the Going Broadway spectacle. So I'm all here, available on your podcast as well. Thank you all. It's a new, exciting time for me, and I hope you guys are ready for it, because I don't want to let you down, because you guys have never let me down. So I'll see you all back here on Thursday for the Dynamite Review. In the meantime, I hope you have a great couple of days. I'll see you then. See you next time. Whenever. La 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 la. Da 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 da. Ba 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 da ba 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 ba. Do 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 do.